ninacheza asusunana, ninacheza asusunana, abinda an bani shine sunana, za asusunana, ninacheza asusunana, ninacheza asusunana, abinda an bani shine sunana.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, world. Good morning to each and everybody, each and every person, beg your pardon, that's listening to me right now. Well, in the morning, sometimes, you know, you have things happening that is beyond your control, but nonetheless, this is Canada is live right now. And what I need is totally understandable when it comes to certain quarters and certain things. And I love what I do. I love each and every morning that I wake up, and I'm blessed to be here. You know, I'm blessed to be here to do what I do best. It's a blessing each and every time, and that's why I always say, and I'm glad to say, and I will continue to say, this is Canada. You're being here, being alive, being being where you should be. I love each and every moment that I'm here, like I do say. It's Wednesday morning, a little bit topsy-turvy in the studios this morning, but we're glad we're back, and we're here. And what can we say? What can we do? It's one of those things that you can't even, there's practically nothing you could do about it, but you just blend up with things and let things take care of itself. But nonetheless, we're here doing what we do best in radio, on live radio. And live radio, talking about live radio, I got to check this one out real quick. You know, got to pardon me having to know whether we're live on CradleRadio as well, because, you know, those are two arms of a pole, as you might want to just have it. I think anybody listening to us in CradleRadio now would be hearing me live and clear. Okay, so we're good, and we're good. And it's 10:16 in the morning on a Wednesday. It's the 1st of October, the year 2025, in some calendars. And in some calendars, it's, way behind, and in some calendars, it's way ahead. But in this particular calendar, we're here, and we're glad we're here. So, nonetheless, I'll just, keep the ball rolling this way. This morning, what we're going to be discussing, or what we will be talking about, is something that says, as it affects Canada, because the show itself is This is Canada. And on This is Canada, on CradleRadio, what we tend to talk about as happenings, events, social, economic factors, even political, cultural, as it affects Canada. So if you're a friend of Canada, you definitely want to join in. Let's see if we can get this one. I'm trying to just, do so many things at the same time here. All right, let's see if we can loop this one. All right, Talashe. Okay, good. We're good. I'm trying to just loop you online as well. But it seems that something is just not getting there today. I don't know why. That's one of those days, right? It is one of those days. Nah, I'm just going to, at least is what I'm going to do right now. Just see, give me a couple of seconds, I'll lift you up with this music coming from Bear Zedakula. All right. And for information of whoever might be listening or whoever might be algorithm that might be, doing its own checks and balances, Cradle Radio is a radio station. So what you're watching right now is a live presentation coming from the stables of Cradle Radio, the Cradle Radio studios, right, in Canada. So it's not some fun fair coming from somewhere trying to just, go through things. And that's why, most importantly, we always, start with, this phase. And we always, push this in as well. So you can see music up and like a skyrocket in
I can see your expressions. Yeah. Can be the light.
The fact that I love playing music is because it just makes too much sense, to ignore it in the morning. This dude, man, I don't know about you. If you've never had the name Baz before, you better get it right this time around. Have a hang of it, and hopefully you might just be that person that knows good music. I love everything that comes from him each and every time. It's a morning hour, and this is Cradle Radio's This is Canada. And each and every moment in the morning, we would come around talking about things as it affects us Canadians, as it affects, the country that I love, my country. I love calling it my Canada, if you know what I mean, Each and every time. Sukiyaki right there, that's my brother, and is in tune with us this morning, all right? I just I started the show with a little bit of topsy-turvy, but as we're taught, it was with Groom, the show must go on. So I just opened my system and everything, just, trying to, glitching out for me. But nonetheless, I still love that task and that, challenge each and every time that I'm in. This is like masterclass right there. I love it, love it, love it, love it, every moment of it. It's cool. This is Canada. And for people that might be watching us for the very first time, now this is what we do each and every day from Mondays through Thursday, 9 to 11 in the morning hour. And when we're here, we talk about things as it affects my nation, Canada. And things that might be social issues, it might be political issues, it might be economical issues, it might be cultural issues. We'll bring it up on the table and we'll talk about it in the morning. And from 9 to 11 in the morning hour and 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern time, because I know practically we're all over the globe. So when we're there, we need to identify that time zone as well. So this is Eastern time. And while we are doing what we're doing, and I know that affects so many people, we just want to contribute. We're not in the business of blaming, having to blame this person did this, that person did that. No, that's not what we're here for. We're in the business of actually having to use a collective knowledge that comes around, especially from the populace, into probably having to educate or support the people that we've elected into places of authority. And those people, if perhaps they're considerate enough to want to just borrow ideas, they will probably just learn one or two from people that put you in a place of authority. And at that moment in time, you might be saying to yourself, oh yeah, all right, we're doing it and we're getting in there. I really want my nation, my beloved nation, Canada, to, get to where it's meant to get to. And I'm talking about at the forefront of things. It used to be like that, but don't demystify yourself by telling yourself we're there, because we're not there. We're not close to it now. And every morning I come around doing what I do Monday through Thursday. And for our would-be listener or viewer, because we're live streaming as well. So you might just want to just, if you have any information for us, you can send it through to info@CradleRadio.com. And then we'll be talking and we'll be having a bit of banner, a bit of tete-a-tete that might be encouraging enough for people to borrow through. And we'll do our due diligence as well. Having said that, minimum wage raised in 5 provinces with better now the lowest. That's what we're talking about this morning. And you might say, okay, it doesn't affect me, but it does affect you. How does it affect you? Every time, if you've not noticed, and if you shop around, if you're that person that goes around having to source for things in terms of sustainability and all that, you'd realize that every time that there's a wage hike, things gets more expensive. And that's the angle that I want to look at it from this morning. And a lot of people might say, oh, yeah, it doesn't concern me. Oh, yeah, it doesn't concern you. You know when it does concern you, when your pocket, is having that. And at the end of the day, you're not going to be complaining to nobody about whether or not you contributed to it when it was being done. So, and I realize that every time that there's a wage hike, yeah, there is. October 1, everybody's happy. By that dollar that pushed up your pay stub, and then you're like, okay, we're getting in there. I'm not a preacher of doom, right? I just get to be realistic in my approach to things. And when I come around, what I do is this: I just want to just be that guy that gives the room for objectivity. Every time that a dollar adds up to workers, and I'm not talking about temporal workers now, because when you say minimum wage, what's temporal for somebody might be permanent for another person. So when you say minimum wage, you might say, oh, well, it's the students that are working there. Some student work right now in Canada happens to be permanent work for other people. And that's the truth. That's the truth. And then you have people having to do 2 or 3 of those jobs, and then you can ask for people being effective and people having to do things in the right ways. But listen, if you got to pay your bill, you probably want to go the whole 9 yards with that aspect of having to combine 2 or 3 jobs, 2 or 3 jobs together. And, like Sukam is saying right now, this is, I'd like to introduce this man to everybody who's listening now. This is Olasunkanmi Sanusi. All right. If you look at the chat line as well, you probably see his name in there. Sukam is chatting in from the UK. And this is the CEO of Planet Works, right? Get to watch his show online. It's on TikTok. It does TikTok live, and it does a whole lot of stuff on live as well, on Voices Everywhere. That's an amazing show as well. Now, the likes of Sukum is saying every time there's a pay rise, there's a hike in prices due in the market space. That's definite. That's definite. But people don't, the hike comes from places where, for instance, employers might say, I'm pushing up my wage limit. And I break this down for people who don't, who might want to know. And every time there's a pay rise or a wage increase of whatever case may be, your employer, I'm an employer of labor, so I kind of know how this works in a little bit of way, but not in terms of the commercial aspect of it. When your employer increases that wage, and in terms of how much, aside the fact that what you earn is going to you, there's a certain money that every time that take for instance, every time I'm paying, if I have a staff that I need to pay their wage now, I'm paying that. I'm paying for something called what's that stuff that my accountant sends to me about? It's a certain money, all right, that you need to pay back to, the authorities for having to employ you, and that takes care of your work, and we call it employment insurance and all that. We call it EI in the likes of Canada. I don't know what it's called elsewhere, but then when that happens, I'm not just paying you. I'm also being I'm being levied to pay for that amount that I'm paying for the government. I'm adding to that purse as well. So it's a two-way street for, let's say, employers. Now, the likes of chain companies, supermarkets and all that. Now, when they're doing that, they have to increase whatever their stock is on the shelves to be able to balance up. Now, when you increase in terms of what you're giving to people and what you dishing out of people in terms of sales, in terms of consumer sales, as the case may be, you tend to have a little bit of balance in there so that whatever you're paying to your staffers that's really happy that they got $1 above whatever they were earning before. Now, that staffer of yours is still going to come back and purchase through consumption sales, as I'll put it, like in terms of consumer product. Now, when you go back to buy the consumer product, whatever you think you're earning, you're paying back. And I'm not saying wage increase is a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm just looking at it from a different angle this morning. Nothing is free, like the likes of Sukam is saying. Nothing is free. And at the end of the day, the big question is this. Are you really getting a wage increase? Or is inflation taking the better part of it? To be a part of this show, all you got to do is follow us on our social media handles, the likes of Facebook, the likes of Instagram, TikTok, X. And I know we have what's the other one we have? We have it's just too many. Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, or what else? Remind me of that. Facebook and YouTube and all social media handles. And then you could be a part of the show by contributing your own quarter. Now, if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a contributors coming from different parts of the world. So if you have any question, if you have anything you want to raise, we will definitely, honor it and raise it out. Like I'm reading this comment by Sukomi is saying, I call him Sukiyaki. Every time there's a pay rise, there's a hike in prices too on the market space. The market space that we're talking about this morning is just not your everyday consumption space like your supermarkets. It's not only that. When there is a price or a wage increase, then that's when you see that for people that do rent, you tend to have a little bit of hike in terms of your landlord, because across board, everybody's paying. Across board, everybody needs to pay. So that dollar that you think you're earning, let's assume that you're earning $1 plus whatever you're earning now, and you're doing 8 hours. Oh, let's say 40 hours a week. You have $40 over whatever you're having, plus or minus with a little bit of taxes involved and all that. Let's say you're earning $1. Let's say whatever you're pushing out is 40 hours a week, and $40 over that plus a change, $44.50 or thereabout. Multiply that by 4 weeks. All you're earning is $160. Oh, rounding it up, we'll say $200 more. $200 more to wherever you're earning. But at the end of the day, is it reflective on the things that you buy in the market? Price of gasoline. Some people call it benzene in other parts of the world. Gasoline, food, electricity. And I'm talking about your everyday usage of utilities and all that. And this brings to the fore of how much are you earning to blow up the system in a way that it affects everybody across board. And I'm just asking because sometimes I want to know. It's not asking because I really want to spoil your day on especially the first day of the month, okay? And talking about the first day of the month, I'll give a shout out to a country of my birth, and that's Nigeria. It was celebrating an Independence Day today. Without that, you wouldn't see me, because actually when you see me, you still look at this guy like, okay, dark in complexion and all that. Yes, we want to wish everybody in that part of the world a happy Independence Day. All right, talking about Independence Day. Are you going to be independent at the end of the day when you have $1 that's added to your wage? How independent will you be? I'm just asking. I'm curious enough to want to know. This is CradleRadio's This is Canada in the morning. And one of the things that we'll talk about, somebody did write me the other day saying, oh, okay, every time I want to know things, I'm just going to be here and all that. Well, yeah, every time you want to know things, it's understandable you want to be here. We appreciate it, though, right? And if you realize or witness anything in your neighborhood as well, like what we'll be discussing tomorrow, for instance, which is this rampant case of cat theft in Ontario, all right? Such a thing like that. You can contribute by sending in anything that you notice around there, and we'll be talking. But this morning we're talking about, the wage increase, minimum wage raise in 5 provinces. And my go-to, which is readily having to flip through different news channels, and when I'm doing that, I just want to just compare and notes, from different people. And like I did say yesterday, I was going to give credit to the guy that had a write-up from some of the things that I used up yesterday. But, show had to just last for that long, and we totally just didn't do that. But today, as regards to this, we'll give credit to some of the incepts that we're going to be using on this show. And it says 5 provinces are increasing their minimum wage as of today to support workers amid affordability issues. Now, I tend to have a problem with words like that, to support. In terms of 5 provinces, the hikes will apply to other likes of Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. So this minimum wage will be reflected in these provinces. Now, the provinces have tied their increases to Canada's steadily growing consumer price index, which is an indicator of inflation. Inflation. And that's scary word, because when you say, oh yeah, wage increase, and this is why sometimes I tend to question the objectivity of the unions as well, because when you ask for a wage increase every time, you need to think about the other side of how it affects everything in its entirety. All right? How it affects everything in its entirety. And then you ask yourself the bigger question, which is like, oh, the wage that I'm collecting, for instance, is that wage gonna affect everybody across board? And I'm not saying don't get it. Yeah, the pooper spanking tea, Papa T. Yeah, this is Canada. I can read you. My system this morning really just glitched out on me. I wanted to just, show what I do best in terms of having to highlight all the stuff that you're, posting in there. I'm trying to work on it, but either ways, we're still gonna get to the bottom of this at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, my question is, the increment that comes in wages, and the likes of Papa T can reckon with this, because when you say a wage increase, because as an employer of labor, how effective is this in the terms of sustainability across board for employers? I'm not saying it's a nightmare, but it becomes a nightmare at a point. Oh yeah, I know I sound good and look great. All right, yeah, chip, right? First few minutes, yeah, I wanted to have a blast, man. But nonetheless, we're back here, and the show must go on. Definitely, these are people that watch my back. The likes of Sukiyaki, the likes of Papa T, and most importantly, Tonashi. Oh, she's always there. She's always like, oh, what time is starting the show? Thanks, love. Appreciate it. So wage increase. How effective is it in a system, in a polity that is expanding? I don't want to say explosive, I'll say expanding, day in, day out. Inflation rate going above board, everything coming across, and people not being able to afford a 30-day stretch, which is a monthly process of how they sustain themselves or themselves. I'm asking, I'm curious, I want to know. I really just want to know, sometimes people just think, oh yeah, Mariah, you're criticizing. I'm not criticizing nobody this time around. I'm just curious enough to wanting to know that each and every time your money, for instance, or your wages increase from what it was before to another level, and it's not like it's coming from, how do we put this one? It's not like it's coming from a point of you earning maybe $50 more. It's always like a dollar. Now, for instance, Ontario's minimum wage is now $17.60 per hour. Okay? $17.60 per hour. Nova Scotia's and Prince Edward Islands are 16.5 an hour. $16.50 an hour. Manitoba is $16 per hour. And Saskatchewan is 15.35 an hour. You know, can you see the trend? So, how sustainable is this on the part of the employee? In a way of having to add a dollar to the wage and thinking that's going to be reflective in their daily lifestyle. Alberta, however, is the only province out of Canada that has not boosted its minimum wage, with its $15 per hour rate now the lowest in all of Canada. In all of Canada. Sometimes you might look at it and look at the dynamics of this, and you say to yourself, okay, what's the spending power in the likes of Manitoba? How much do people rent homes in Manitoba? How much across the shelf groceries in Manitoba? So when having to increase it by $1, is it not gonna bloat up the system? I'm just curious this morning. You know, and Papa T, all right, I'm feeling you. Increasing wage solves a problem, but equally creates new problems. Definitely it does. It does create new problems because it becomes a problem because everybody wants to have a piece of the pie at that moment. Everybody wants to have that piece. Everybody wants to have that national cake portion that they believe needs to be accrued to them at the end of the day. And sometimes in my mind, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a whole lot of stuff coming in and out on a daily basis. In 5 provinces. In Canada, we have 10 provinces. So 5 provinces have decided to increase it. And this headline goes around and goes like, oh, it's only Alberta is the only province that's not boosted its minimum wage. How much is a room in Alberta compared to how much a room is in the likes of the GTA, the likes of Toronto, the greater Toronto area? Because I bet you at the end of the day, anybody working minimum wage might not be able to afford even a studio, which is practically kind of the, something that should be affordable for all. And when you talk about minimum wage, when you talk about each and every financial aspect that affects the populace, people might not just want to sit down and think. Do you need to tell your unions not ask for a wage hike or wage increase every time so that the inflation doesn't just blow it up? There's so many questions that needs to be answered, and so many questions. Up at the top of my head, I look at it, I just shake my head that this is another economical tantrum from whoever is sitting on top of it all. My name is Akin Lloyd. This is Canada, people. In the morning, I just can't have enough. I can have enough. Now, don't forget, join our social media handles. Join us in different space, as I love to call it. We got the likes of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Discord. Oh yeah, we're on Discord as well. I like that one. It makes us feel like we're Gen Zs and all that. You know, we're on Discord. We're on Twitch. We're on what else? Where else? We're on oh, what's that other one that we have again? I can't keep tab of all of this. It's a lot, but we're practically everywhere. My team, they're doing a great job as well as regards that. So I'll give credit to them as regards that aspect of everything. And while we're looking at the minimum wage increase or raise in 5 provinces out of 10 provinces, and then the headline that I saw this morning just goes like, with Alberta now the lowest. Well, Alberta is lowest, but you got 10 provinces in the country. You're not covering that aspect of why the other provinces are not budging. Is it that they don't want that inflation to cross over to their province? Because I could sit down here today and buy something in Ontario, and I go to another province and I get it cheaper. It's not a uniform rate. Take, for instance, insurance, for instance, auto insurance. I could be elsewhere in Canada and not even paying a tenth of what I'm paying in Ontario. Now, those places don't want overhead above what they're paying so that inflation doesn't creep up to them as well. Minimum wage to an onlooker, to somebody who doesn't sit down to think, could probably get you happy and like, yeah, man. No. And these are questions you need to ask the people that you elect into a place of authority every day in, day out. I'm just a curious boy, man. All right, not a boy, man. Middle-aged man who just wants to know. Where's your head, people? And I'm not trying to be insultive in any way. I'm just trying to just draw your attention to the reality. Minimum wage increase, and everybody goes, yeah, we got what we wanted. And maybe there's a reason why people that don't even know how to do accounting and other ones heading the unions. And I'm not blaming any union leader. I'm just saying, go back, think about it. Every time you ask for a wage increase, what readily happens? I just want to know. I'm just curious to wanting to know. And there's no bad thing in being curious to wanting to learn, isn't it? It's just curious, man. Just curious. Time is never a friend, especially when you're having fun, but an hour is kind of good enough for me, because after an hour, I might probably just be having a meltdown, because sometimes I get emotional about certain things that I believe that we as humans need to use our brains and our heads in a way to try to just learn, not only learning, but having to conform with the reality that's at hand every day. So for myself that's not collecting minimum wage, who doesn't have a wage increase right now, I'm going to go to my go-to place for supplies, and I'm going to realize that thing that I bought for $17.20 as of last week, getting there this morning might just be $20. Might just be $20. And what's the population of people bearing minimum wage in a society like ours? I love that aspect. I love that question too. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm going to find out how much what percentage are people earning minimum wage? Give me 1 second in here. It's just about fact checking, because this day and age, you got to fact check a whole lot of stuff, right? What's the percentage? We're going to ask Google. Google seems to know everything this day and age, right? What percentage, all right, Google, let's go ahead. What percentage is minimum wage earners? I'll put it that way. Minimum wage earners. Minimum wage earners in Canada. In Canada's workforce, all right. in Canada's workforce. Hopefully, we have enough time to do this, this crazy research of mine. Now, guess what? This is what I love about this one. The technology is right here. Back in the day, you got to ask people from your news department to find you that statistical data. But thankfully, it's right here. And this says approximately 8.8% of Canadian workers earn the minimum wage as of 2018. But the figure varies by province and has seen shift over time, increasing to about 10% of employees by 2018 due to legislative increases in several provinces. 10%. 10% of 40 million. I'm not a math genius, but 10% of 40 million is 4 million. So 4 million people is going to determine the prices of stuff on the shelves. Just curious, because those are the questions you need to ask yourselves. But what do I know? But always remember, 200 or 300 years from now, and this is my favorite phrase that I'm always going to be earning with for now. In 200 to 300 years from now, you're going to watch this back because everything is in the cloud, right? And you're going to know that a man called Akinloye grazed this planet and really did warn us about all of this sensitization and a whole lot more before things just balloons out. And that's me, and that's you. Hopefully you take something away. It's been my pleasure doing this, and we'll do same tomorrow. Tomorrow, Thursday, is the last day for the week on the show. It's a Monday through Thursday process. Mondays through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And that's when we do our thing in the morning, and we're here, and we'll be glad if you could join us at that moment. The first 1 hour, 9 to 10, is a musical build-up, and subsequent latter part of it is the talk part, where we delve into different issues. Tomorrow, we're talking about car theft, the increase in car theft in Ontario. I'll probably look at it from across board. We'll compare the likes of other provinces as well. That's what we'll be talking about tomorrow, and hopefully you can join us. And don't forget, if you have any information for us that might help us, even criticism doesn't it's not a bad thing as well. Criticize us. Let's know where we're doing wrong and where we should be, putting our focus on as well. We will welcome that as well. Sending those infos into our email, which is info@CradleRadio.com. Once you do that, we'll sieve it out. We'll take on your advices. We'll take on your investigations. And also, if you have things that you want to talk about, that you want us to raise as well, that's happening in your society around Canada, we'll welcome that as well. My name is Akinloye. Tomorrow is another day. And like I always say, be safe, keep safe, and do things in accordance to the rule of law in the society that you're living in. I love my Canada. Do you love yours? I'll see you tomorrow.
Vraiment désolé, n'a jamais rien résolu. Nous ne sommes pas des cas isolés, c'est les évolus. Bien des fois j'ai voulu m'envoler, mais mes ailes étaient gelées. J'ai imaginé avaler des gélules. M'en coller une, je voyais au fond d'une poubelle, voulais qu'on m'assassine. Mon corps bouffé par les fourmis, c'était trop facile. Pour tout un tas de raisons, finalement je n'ai pas pu le faire. Je te demande à faire autant, cela ne me semble pas nécessaire. 2, 3 ulcères, pose-toi sur tes vieux frères. Tu sais, tu n'as pas autant d'amis que de mains que tu serres. Aïe, je sais, ça fait mal pour faire meilleur après. Je connais ce goût âpre, le gouffre et son attrait. Les sourires se prennent à crête, mais les têtes quand ça traîne. Mieux vaut cracher maintenant qu'après, c'est même les anges apprennent. Le matin ou l'après-midi, ou la nuit sous la neige, nos vies sont théâtrales, c'est sous la pluie, sous la grêle. Les montagnes russes, c'est devenu banal. Les états d'âme, faut voir les gueules qu'on tire dans les rues de Paname. À se jeter dans le premier canal, à la première panade. Aux premières prévues, la balade tourne à la noyade. Chantons des jérémiades, bâtissons des stalags. Plus d'eau chaude, allons nous suicider sur l'esplanade. À l'envers, escalade, depuis le pont des arts. Depuis n'importe quel pont d'où on plonge déjà. Ouvrez donc toutes les vannes, tailladons-nous les veines d'avenir. Nous n'avons jamais eu qu'on en finisse avec. Trêve d'ironie, rares sont les trèfles à 4 feuilles. Donc sèche tes larmes et va te battre, ma gueule.